Welcome, everybody, to Tammy Tuesday, the podcast of life, love, and purpose. We're happy you could join us. I'm excited to share a beautiful guest today, Christine Iring. She is a therapeutic energy flow and restoration specialist, and she has a beautiful gift to share with the world, and we're going to kind of dive into her story and how she got into doing what she's doing now. She's a new friend, and I'm thrilled to have her here. Thank you for being here, Christine.
Thank you for having me. I mean, totally new friend, 2 days ago.
Literally new friend.
So I am totally blessed and floored and everything. When you said, hey, do you want to come on? I'm like, sure, riding the wave. And okay, let's see where this goes and leads, right?
You got to go with the energy flow, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's what we do. Well, I'm happy you're here. And I'm so glad that you graciously accepted my invitation. So I'm excited to dive into your story. What I like to do, and this is fun for me because I haven't heard your whole story. So I'm hearing this new and fresh, just like everybody else. So I would love to get an idea of what set you on the path that you're on today. I know there's probably a lot that goes into that, but give us some background on how you got here.
I would say that probably my whole life, I've probably been aware, probably just didn't know what it was, because trust me, my parents aren't.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't.
And I went to parochial school, Catholic school, raised Catholic. Even in 6th grade, I started questioning things like, things didn't seem right, off, or whatever, at least for me.
What were you picking up on?
Just like anything, we didn't go to CCD. We had religious ed, part of our, school day. So we could be talking about anything, Noah and the Ark or whatever. And it just doesn't make sense to me. The teachers, the priests probably hated me. Oh my God, that girl has got her arm. But to me, if
you're questioning everything.
Yeah. So if the pieces don't fit for me,
right,
I'm asking questions for clarity and all that. And what really started the path is I'm a teacher by day, and I didn't even get my certificate until I was in my late 40s. I was a stay-at-home mom doing the right thing, wanted to raise my kids, and we had to take a non-Western civilization class to be part of our, be certified. So I'm flipping through, what do I want to pick? So I picked religions of the world.
Oh, interesting.
And that's kind of what I like this about Buddhism. I like this about Hinduism.
This makes sense.
Right.
This makes sense.
And to me, it was I kind of like this about this religion, this about that religion. And at least for me personally, I feel that religion is where you're following a particular dogma or someone's telling you how you're supposed to be, right?
Right.
Where I feel that spirituality is yourself inside, discovering yourself,
your own blueprint.
Right. And what works for you. And that probably is what really started it off, is reading all these different aspects, different cultures, different ways of thinking.
You said this was in your 40s?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I'd say from there, I was married 25 years.
Okay.
And the way it ended was badly.
Okay.
And instead of having a conversation with me, he left me a Dear John letter.
Oh, wow. And you have how many kids?
3 kids.
Okay.
And he was working nights at the time. And I had my teaching certificate, but I was trying to find a full-time job, but in the process I was subbing in the district that we lived in.
Right.
And I was hoping I'd make it home before he left, because there was something I wanted to talk to him about before he left for work. And when I pull in the driveway, I'm like, missed him, right? Mm-hmm. So I make it to the kitchen, I put my stuff on the table, and I call him on the phone to kind of start talking about what I wanted to discuss with him
before he left.
And he was like, have you been to the bedroom yet? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, I left you, and I left a letter on the bed.
Whoa. What did you say?
I didn't know what to say, because I was like, wow. It's I know we had problems. I know we had issues, but let's discuss it. Or if you wanted to leave, could we have talked about this and you leaving or whatever together, where we could then have a conversation with the kids and everybody's kind of on the same page where, okay, Dad's leaving this day or whatever. But no, now I'm dealing with all this, you know, emotion, God knows what. You're crying, you're full of God knows what.
Yeah.
And my kids are coming home in a half hour.
How old were your kids at the time?
My youngest was a senior in high school. So 18, 20, and 23.
So they weren't little. They were,
right.
They were a little older. Okay.
Right. So they probably knew that, you know, they probably heard fighting and stuff. And like I said, it wasn't perfect.
Right.
But we could have gone about this a different way. So the kids didn't know about him leaving. You know, they're walking in the door. You're trying to, you know, get yourself all together and everything. And it was like, where's Dad? And I felt like I was left with all the aftermath and the garbage, you know, that was left.
Wow.
So getting yourself through that, and yeah, I guess I'll be totally transparent. He came out as gay.
Wow.
So, wow, doesn't that mess with your head? And you start thinking these things like, was the marriage for real? Did he always love me? You know, it would explain some things about how he was. It kind of messed me up a little bit.
Right.
You know,
understandable.
And when he left, I started seeing a therapist. And I saw the therapist for a good 3 years. So even after I moved here, like this summer will be 10 years that I've been here in Arizona.
Where were you before that? That was Chicago.
I'm originally from the Chicago area, so Illinois.
Yeah.
And I was seeing her like once a week, and then eventually like, you know, 2 times a month, once a month.
Right.
And
this was helping.
it was helping because I knew that there were certain things about myself, like my old self, played the victim a lot. Oh my God, it was always somebody else's fault, right? Never mind.
Yep.
Always someone else's fault. Why are you doing this? Why is what, something. I was very reactionary.
Yeah.
Where I'm not so much anymore. So with him leaving, how I was feeling, all of that, I decided to go to a therapist. But here's the thing with going to a therapist, or even if you come to see me in my line of work, if you're really not ready, and if you really aren't going to be honest with yourself, and even like holistically dive in deep to yourself, like why, because I even do this now sometimes. Why do I feel this way? Why am I triggered by this?
Right.
Why does it bother me? When did this start? Like, how long have I been doing this? Trying to find the root cause of something.
Of your reactions.
And then figuring that out, then trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I turn this around where maybe it still bothers you, but it doesn't bother you in the same way, or you've learned to, control yourself, take deep breaths, walk away, come back when you're ready,
right.
Learn different ways of handling things and or just working through it all together.
Right. But you were dissecting it.
So I'm like, okay, if you're going to do this, you're not going to BS, because if you're BSing your therapist, you're BSing yourself. And
that's good. That's huge.
Yeah. And I can honestly say, even for people that come to see me, if you are stuck in your story, and if I keep hearing the same thing over and over again, it's like, you know what? I go, we've kind of gone over this. So are you ready to
shift?
Like I said, dive deep and figure out what this is and what's causing it. And then let's figure out a way where you can work through it and heal. Or else maybe you need to step away from this and maybe come back when you're ready, because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time, because obviously you're not ready. So you got to be ready to want to change.
For sure. And just that awareness is big for people.
Absolutely.
Because we get stuck in our ruts and we say, no, this is how it is. And I'm just pissed. So help me fix this so I'm not pissed. It's like, wait a minute here. There's a lot more to it.
And you can't be pissed, because I think what a lot of people get confused with is like when they think of like, consciousness and awareness and all this, you're all supposed to be, love and light. And
no, that's not real.
No. You can be angry. You can, it's just, don't stay there.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at it.
It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel grief, but you can't hang out there and live there. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out, well, why can't I get through this? Why can't I move forward? Do I need to talk to somebody? What do I need to do that I'm not doing
to move through it?
To move through it and move on.
Right. So with your therapist, was that happening for you?
It was.
Because you were being honest with yourself.
It was. Because even when I moved here, we did phone therapy.
Sessions, yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not starting all over again, because if I picked a new therapist out here, I would have to retell my story. They don't know anything about me.
Of course.
So I said, could we set up, phone?
Over the phone.
Yeah, because I don't even think there was Zoom yet. So
you're right. Yeah.
So I was like, so would that work? Or we could just talk like once a month? And I was like, okay, cool. And then I kind of got to a point where I felt I was ready, where I didn't need her anymore. And okay, let's try this on our own.
So then what happened?
So then I moved out here. That was a big step. I lived in Illinois all my life.
What made you move here?
Job.
Okay.
Because Illinois is the opposite of Arizona. It's
in
like
what way?
here there's a teacher shortage.
Right.
And trying to get the people to come here for a job.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because they don't pay teachers.
Here I was trying to find a job, and I tried for 4 years, where you could be applying for a job, and it's like hundreds of people applying for the job. So you were lucky if you even got an interview.
Right.
And, I was getting to the point like, oh my God, I'm sitting here at this computer every day. I'm applying for any new position that I'm qualified for. It's like I'm hardly getting any calls. And then what I hate the most about interviews is like, can you at least tell me, like, what was it, why I didn't get it?
Feedback.
Right. It's like, did you need me to talk more? Did you not understand something where I should have brought something up? Anything. But any kind of feedback where when you have that next interview, you know what's going on. So I was almost like, oh my God, it's like, what is going on? It's like, I'm trying.
Right.
But nothing is happening here. Mm-hmm. And, then he left. And then my best friend since second grade said, you know what? She goes, I think the universe was forcing change on you. Mm-hmm. Like you knew things were wrong and everything. And if you weren't going to make a move, he did.
Right. It was being
which in
served
turn
to you.
started the ball rolling for everything else to happen.
Right.
Where since the kids were older, my son was going to be going into college, so he wasn't going to be like home all the time. I was like, okay, I'm not really stuck here in Illinois. So
that's not an excuse.
Well, I was like, well, I'm not here anymore. I don't have to deal with the kids, schooling, all that. I want to live someplace where it's warm. I'm done with snow. I'm done with sub-zero weather. Where do I want to do? So I started applying in Florida and here. Like, okay, I was like, well, okay, I like Florida, and I don't think I've ever even been here. But it's like, but it's supposed to be nice. So, okay, let's see what you got to do. What's the criteria as far as, because I had my license in Illinois. So what do I have to do to kind of like reciprocate it and switch it over to that state? Mm-hmm. Is there any classes or whatever I have to do? So I started filling out the paperwork and all that. And Arizona kind of happened a little faster than Florida did.
Okay.
And I happened to find a new website for like teaching jobs. And it was like so weird. It was like the first day I applied to a couple of jobs on there. And the very next day I got a phone call from a school in Maryvale, which is inner city Phoenix for those who don't know.
Yep.
Let's start big, right?
Well, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yep. So I talked to the principal on the phone. And it was really interesting. He gave me a choice. He goes, I want to hire you. He goes, do you want to teach 7th grade language arts or do you want to teach creative writing? He goes, I'll let you sleep on it and you can decide which one you want. So I went with the 7th grade language arts.
Okay.
So that was a big step. You know, I'm getting divorced.
Yeah, lots of changes.
My kids are grown. So, like, you know, you're a mom. They need you, but not in the same capacity. Moving out of state, across the country. So it's not like I can just hop in a car and be there in a couple hours. And I didn't know anybody here. So
that's brave.
There was a lot of big, like, life-changing things
Shifts
going on where that's why I wanted to continue the therapist, because it's like, okay, yeah, let's just brave that unknown, right? Let's just go all out.
You're like, I guess here we go.
Yep, let's go for the ride.
Yeah.
So the first year and a half was really hard, you know, homesick, you know, time difference, because like right now they're 2 hours ahead of us.
You can feel that.
And always like, okay, what time is it there? Can I call them? Is it too late?
Yeah.
But yet they have no problem calling me at like 5, 6 in the morning. Hey, I'm 2 hours like behind you.
That's funny.
So I got through that, and I originally lived in Glendale when I first moved here. And I don't know, I was just sitting in the apartment one day, and I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. Like missing something out of life. Wasn't quite sure what it was, but I just knew that there was like a void.
Were you feeling unsatisfied?
Yeah, like my life needed something.
Something was missing.
So I typed in the word meditation.
What made you do that?
I felt maybe that's what I needed because I never really did it.
But it just came to you. Okay.
I mean, I probably did, but not like in the sense that most people think, you know, like sitting in the pose or, you know, lying on a bed and, you know, just breathing and being in. So I typed in meditation and hit
Search.
send. Yeah. And it was like, the first one was chakras. Had no idea what they were. I was, what's this? So I started reading it. I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. And you start going down the rabbit hole. Then you click on this, and then this leads to this. Let's click on this. And
you were educating yourself.
So everything started making sense. And that's kind of like where it started from. So for about a year, you know, learning about the chakras, learning about, you know, when they're blocked, when they're overstimulated, trying to get them balanced, you know, certain things you could do. And then I can't even remember how, but SWIHA, Southwest Institute of the Healing Arts, came up. And I started looking at their website and looking at the different programs, the different classes that they taught. And I drove to Tempe to the campus. And as soon as I walked in, like something shifted in me. It was like, I was like, wow. I feel like at peace. Like I feel like I'm supposed to be here. And I signed up for the Mind Body Wellness Program. So now with that, you get to choose, I believe, 2 main modalities, 3 that you want to do. So they make you take the introductory course to life coaching, which I believe is good, and I believe it's key. And like in my practice, I always like to have a mini coaching session before I do Reiki, sound healing, guided meditation, whatever, because I want to see where the client is at.
Right.
How are they feeling? What do they feel that they need? You know, where you can then figure out, well, okay, maybe you came in for Reiki, but maybe you need a guided meditation instead on this particular thing.
Right.
And then I like to have another like mini session after, if it's a coaching session, well, how did you feel about that whole thing?
Right.
Because sometimes, like I said, you have to dive deep and it can be uncomfortable.
Brings things up that they don't expect.
Right. Or bring things up that you don't want to talk about. And it's
Right.
like, well, how are you going to get through it and above it if you don't talk about it?
Right. In the classes that you took as you were taking each of these the 3 different sections, I assume they meet, because I'm not that familiar. I know about the school, but I haven't.
Right.
I don't know that much about the programs. So did they make you, in the classes that you were in, did you practice on each other and you got to be able to kind of understand these modalities with other people?
So every modality that I learned, they have you go through it.
Okay.
So the hypnotherapy classes or the guided meditation classes, you were the client in class, and one of your classmates.
You do it on each other.
Yes, where we did it, where you experience what it's like, because how are you to know what to tell the client?
Right. If you've
never experienced it yourself.
Right.
So any exercise we did with life coaching in those classes, they would like pair us up. And then we would go off and they'd give us, half hour, 45 minutes to go through the exercise.
Right.
And then we'd come back and talk as a class about things that came up. So anything that I learned there, I went through myself.
Right.
So,
and that's healing for yourself anyway.
Yes. In fact, I think my famous quote there was, if you didn't release some baggage on a weekend at SWIHA, there's something wrong with you.
It's almost like you could, if you were there, you could not do it.
And I thought I was just saying that like on the fly, like kind of being funny, but kind of being serious at the same time.
Right.
Like, well, if you don't drop some baggage this weekend, there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so the spring and the fall, they bring out new catalogs with classes, and they will show pictures of current and former students, and it'll show their name. And then my friend Barb calls and she's like, did you know that you are in the fall catalog of SWIHA? And I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, your quote about baggage is like there with you. I'm like, oh my God, they were listening?
Clearly it was meant to be heard. Wow.
So I learned so much about myself in that year and a half, 2 years that I was at SWIHA than like the whole rest of my life.
How long ago was that?
That was, I graduated from there in 2018.
Okay. So in doing that, what changed in your life?
You know what? My lifestyle. The way I think, the way I see the world. I think in a way my mom thinks I don't believe in God, and I'm like, well, I just don't call it that. I'll call it spirit, or I'll call it universe. A good example would, and she knows I don't go to church, but I don't feel right going to the Catholic Church.
Right.
So it's like, Mom, I'm not that different than you are.
Right.
I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm loving, I'm empathetic. I don't plan on destroying anybody. It's just that the way I think, believe, and see the world is a little different.
Right.
Because I went, there was something wrong with my retina, and they wanted me to do some tests, and I ended up not having to take the tests because they said the condition was so mild. So I was like, oh, thank you, universe. So I called my mom. Oh, it ended up being mild. I don't have to do the tests. I was like, thank you, universe. And she's like, you know what? It would be nice if you thank God once in a while. And I'm like, well, I kind of am. I'm just calling it something different.
Right. And she has and a lot of people, I say that here all the time. That's why I'm sensitive to use the word God. I don't have any issue using the word God, but a lot of people, it's a triggering, and they prefer different uses of that word to understand what a higher power is. And so I totally respect that. People call it lots of different things, and there's nothing wrong with calling it whatever feels right for you. Because like you said, we're our own blueprint. What feels right to us is what feels right to us, including words, even though words are just words.
Oh, yeah.
But they have meanings, and they trigger, and they feel different when they come out of your mouth from different people.
Well, even in like videos or reels or something that I'll create, I'll use like 4 or 5 of the words. God, creator, spirit, divine, whatever feels right for you.
Right.
Where at least people then see that I'm open to, no, it doesn't have to be this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I've talked about this a lot, and I've said this a lot in my spiritual growth and journey, which is words are funny, I really look forward to, however, I'm bracing where I am now, but I really look forward to the day where us as humans, even in this existence, in this plane, can communicate telepathically better, because we already do, but
yes.
I can't wait till we can do it better, because words really create problems within each other, and pain and judgment and a lot of things. People stumble on words. And really the thing that's so ironic is if we could just do it telepathically, you'd be like, oh, we're saying the same thing.
Well, and if you
so many people miss that.
And I almost feel like if you do it telepathically, you're also coming from the feeling. Because think about texting.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you can read a text the way you want to read it, and you're saying it in anger or jest or whatever, and that may not necessarily be the way that they wanted it presented, but it can be, miscommunicated so easily.
So easily.
And then another thing is people are just so offended so easily. I do not have to have the same opinion as you.
Right. I know.
I might ask you questions for clarity to get some understanding on where you're coming from, why you think that way. And I'm not going to think that it's right or wrong.
You're just trying to understand it.
Right. I'm just trying to understand, well, how did you come about that? Or why do you think that? Give clarity for myself.
Exactly.
I can still disagree with you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you're right, I'm wrong, vice versa.
Exactly.
But I don't necessarily like to be attacked for, what I think or believe. Am I going after you?
Right.
So am I bothering you by what I'm doing?
Yeah, exactly. I know. It is interesting. And communication, I think, as people and humans with egos and bodies, is one of our biggest challenges is communication. And it's the thing that's so ironic to me is that I truly believe that most people are communicating the same thing. They're just hearing it in a different tone. And that's where so much strife
or selective hearing.
Anything.
Yeah.
Just the way they're hearing, the way it hits. And in the modern age of how we communicate, technology has created a whole new element of confusion and how we're receiving and what we're putting out there. And it's so fascinating. Yeah, one of the podcasts I had my son on here, and we talked a lot about that because he's living in it. He only knows living in a digital age.
Right.
And, we don't. We grew up in a different time where that was not how we actually communicated on the phone or like this.
Right.
And that was all we had. So we heard the intonations of the voices and how we were expressing the words that we were using regardless, but still it was received in a different way. Not better, not worse, just different. So it's constantly evolving how we communicate as people. I find it fascinating how it affects the world.
Well, and a lot of them, they don't know how to talk face to face. I mean, being a teacher, fifth grade, just the language they use, number one, but it's like they don't know how to carry a conversation face to face. Whoa. Why are you being so, I go, you're going to do that. They're going to be defensive back.
Right.
I go, we're just talking right now. Just speak your piece, but calmly, gently.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's like they're just so used to hiding behind the phone, and I can almost say anything I want because you can't see me.
It's a protective
And then
barrier.
it's all of a sudden they're like
defensive.
Yeah.
Or they shrink.
Right. Or they shrink. It's like, oh my God, this person is in front of me now.
I know.
It's like you should be able to say the same thing, whether you're saying it through a text message or whether they're in front of you face to face. You should be able to express yourself freely as long as you're being respectful about it. You're not maliciously trying to knock somebody down,
Yeah, I know. It is fascinating. And the different generations, which we've talked about a lot here too, it's just, and it's constantly going to evolve. So it's not that it's good or bad. It's just an evolution of how we communicate. But communication is so paramount to how we interact with the world. And so if we can learn to embrace the evolution and how things have changed and the different generations and being patient. And that's why I said, it's like, I wish we could just telepathically just get the message across without having to explain with words and be delicate and all the things. Right. I love one of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. It talks so much about communication and how we take things so seriously. And it's like, this isn't even about you. So just like you said, everybody just calm down. It's okay. We're just communicating here. These is the only words I know how to use to communicate with you, what I'm trying to say.
And we're each having our own human experience.
Exactly.
So, I don't know, we could talk about something and I'm totally fine with it, but you could have had a bad experience
and I'm
with
triggered.
said thing and you're triggered.
Right.
And I could be sitting here, what the heck? This is like...
Yeah, this is like we're just talking.
Everybody is having their own experience.
Exactly.
You don't know what kind of experiences they were. Mm-hmm. You don't know what kind of trauma that they have handled now or in the past.
Right.
You don't know what they're like. Even with my students, a lot of them home life, and here they're coming to school and trying to, think, have an education when there's a lot of stuff going on at home.
Right. And you don't even know what that is. And you have to just be respectful and understand, compassionate.
Yes.
Have compassion as you're communicating with anybody, regardless of the words that you're using. Compassion is huge. For yourself, too. Even the words you're saying, well, especially the words you're saying to yourself. Those are the most meaningful because that is how you respond to the world, is how you're pouring into yourself.
I've learned to stop. So, the self-talk, the doubts, the fears, all that, and it starts going in your head. And, at first you start spiraling downward. Oh, now I'm all depressed and now I'm vibing way down here. And you got to learn how to stop yourself. So I'll even tell people at the beginning, I was even saying it out loud. Stop it. Stop. No. You are not this. You are not thinking this. You are, and turning the narrative around. No, you've got this. You're beautiful. You're radiant. You're enough. You're creative. You're whatever words you got to use for yourself. Right. It's like, stop this. You can do it. And then eventually you just end up doing it in your head where you don't have to say it out loud.
Well, and you catch yourself a lot quicker. Because you're like, wait, because we're all going to do it.
Whoa, I was going there again.
Exactly. Well, it's the thing. The more we can practice that for ourselves, we catch it for ourselves. Therefore, like you say, we start vibing higher and we start being magnetic and attracting the things that we're meant to attract. And we're putting that out there. We're then expressing that whether we realize it or not with the words that we use, with how compassionate we are with each other, how patient we are, how we see everybody.
And I think that's a big thing a lot of people don't understand is the projection. You are constantly projecting.
Yes.
What you're speaking. I could just be sitting there like this and I'm just oozing out anger or whatever. And, your energy goes out so many feet. So people can feel you in the room.
Yes.
And if you understand that whatever you're feeling, happiness, joy, sadness, anger, it's protruding outward. So what do you want people to feel about you?
And around you.
And if you start going down, what are you doing to get yourself back up here or at least be in the middle?
Right. And like you said, though, it is okay. We have those moments. In fact, we're meant to have those moments. Those moments are indicators for us to remember that we don't need to stay there.
Right.
And they're triggers, in a good way, triggers to remind us, like you said, you start going, oh, wait a minute. No, this isn't really me. This isn't who I am. I'm light and I'm happy and I'm joyful and I'm a loving being. And that's all I want to express to myself and to others. So you can raise your vibration. It's funny. We just went and saw the new, the Pixar movie, Inside Out. Inside Out.
The emotions.
Inside Out, the second one. And it's hilarious in so many ways. And it was great because they introduced some new emotions. And I don't want to give too much away if people haven't watched it, but I will mention one. They introduced a new emotion named anxiety.
That's a good.
And
one,
it was brilliant.
People have it.
It was brilliant because I believe all people have it or have had it. So, it's a real thing and we have to manage it. And it can take us over so fast. But the second you accept that is something that's happening and you use it as an indicator, I talk about emotions as indicator lights. It's an indicator light for you that something is going on. There's something deeper rooted that's making you respond this way. So how are you going to recognize whatever that thing that's going on, the sadness, the depression, the anxiety, whatever it is, what's causing that? Like remove yourself, become an observer of what's happening in this storm down here. and say, okay, I'm recognizing, like, truly try to remove yourself from it. And the more you meditate, the easier that gets, period. But if you can remove yourself and become an observer of the event that's happening within you, like you're watching the movie Inside Out, you're watching these emotions from the outside, and you can stand back and watch, and it's funny, but you can do that within yourself too. Right. And say, I recognize this. This is not really how I feel. This is not really what's going on. So, okay, now that I recognize it, it's a lot easier to rise out of it because you see it, you understand it, and then you can forgive yourself and say, well, that was stupid. Absolutely. Okay, I forget.
That's good. A big one, forgiving yourself.
Yes, we're so hard on ourselves because then we're like, oh, God, I was such a jerk to that person, and I know that was not nice, and then we're so down on ourselves, but move on. It's okay. Yes. We all do that stuff.
And then making sure you say you're sorry when you need to, own it.
Yes.
Be accountable, own it. If you did something wrong, said something wrong, go to the person. I mean, even sometimes with teaching, if it's a crazy day, I could walk into another teacher's classroom. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm sorry. That was like a little harsh.
But you wanted to vent.
I didn't mean to like go off like that on you, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's easy to do, and we all do it. We all do it. That's part of this human experience. That's the beauty of it, is that we have to learn how to do that and manage it in a better way to be more compassionate to ourselves and to others. So as you started to, I love this story, how you were talking about, you and your lifestyle changed and how you saw the world and your family. So this is a huge point. When you start to see things in this light, and I call it when we kind of wake up to our soul selves and really what we are, nobody's ever on the same path. We have our own paths, but we have different ways to look at things. So when you're on your path and someone else is on their path and they cannot relate to your path at all, or vice versa, it becomes challenging. So when you communicate, we're talking about words, using the word God, and your mom looking at you like, I really wish you'd say this or do that or be this. And you're like, actually, I'm okay. So do you manage that type of interaction with your family? Because especially your mother, that's big.
Well, I think what helped was that I didn't live close to home anymore. So I didn't have to deal with it like all the time.
Right.
I only have to deal with it once in a while if like the subject comes up, or, if she came to visit, or if I went back home. And it doesn't really come up anymore because I feel sometimes my mom wants people to, like, she has an image of what her family or people in her family should look like, or at least that's how I felt like growing up, or even going into adulthood, or even watching with my kids. Because it's like my daughter got pregnant at 18, 19, and my mom didn't want us to tell anybody. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. I go, well, what are we supposed to say where this baby came from all of a sudden?
Right.
And it was almost like, you know what? Stuff happens. I can almost guarantee my mom comes from a big Polish family. She's one of 10.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm just like, trust me, I can almost guarantee all those other households are not perfect. They have something going on.
Of course they do.
And you know what? And I really don't care what other people think. It's like I'll even meet people sometimes and say, you know what? I know I'm weird, unique, whatever you want to call it. But guess what? I'm okay with that because this is me. This is how I talk. This is how I dress. This is what I believe. I go, take it or leave it. But it took me a really long time to get here. And the hell if somebody's going to tell me that I got to change.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's huge. And that is self-love, owning who you are and standing in your own light. So that in that example, obviously that you moved through that and you said, no, this is what we're doing.
We got over it because the funny thing was, okay, my daughter might have been the first one that was a teenage pregnancy, but there was at least 3 others in the family, like different families. And I go to my mom, see, there you go. That's why I sit back and mind my own business, and
they
can't say anything about my family.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, just worry about yourself, what's in your backyard. And
Right. So how has it, you don't interact on that level very often, it sounds like.
No. I would say I didn't become as reactionary anymore.
Right.
I either would stop and I would do a couple of things. So if I was feeling something or if I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to respond, I would just say, do I have to give you an answer now or do I have to talk about this now? Could I walk away, think about it, and come back when I have an answer? You know, like, can I reflect on this? Or maybe someone said something and you're triggered, and instead of saying something out of spite or anger because you can't take it back once you've said it.
Like a knee jerk.
Mm-hmm. It's like, once again, I'd be like, you know, I'm feeling kind of angry right now. Can I go in the other room and maybe like in a half hour after I cool off and calm down, can we have a conversation?
And then we can really talk about it.
Right. So that was big with my oldest because, you know, sometimes the kids are used to, oh, mom's going to act this way and blah, blah, blah. And here's
so they're like, wait, she didn't get mad?
Here's the big game changer. If you change, you're forcing others to change.
Well, because they see,
mom isn't reacting this way anymore. Or usually she'd say yes or no, and now she's not doing that. And they're like,
can't get her anymore.
Yeah. Wow. We got to change our game. So they kind of had to change because I was changing the way I was doing things and reacting.
Yeah.
So I'd say those are like some of the things that I really noticed.
Oh, yeah. That's big.
I think at first I was probably the only one that was like living the spiritual lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But I believe all three of my kids have it. My son is still on the fence. Like he would call, what would he call? He called my crystals voodoo rocks. But I do believe that there's spirituality there. He just has to find his time, find his way, whatever, right? But he'd be the first one to say, hey, Mom, you want to watch The Last Avatar with me? Which totally has to do with all the spiritual stuff. Mm-hmm, it's got all your stuff in there, Mom, Reiki. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's funny how movies, I love references in movies. There's so many movies that have been around a long time.
Oh, Star Wars, big time.
Exactly.
The Jedis and all that. Yes.
The Force is with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. Right?
Yes.
So anyway, but it is funny because there are so many movies do such a great job often that illustrate what I do believe is truly going on. And I love how they do it because it's in an entertainment fashion, so it's more digestible for people. But when you I've gone back on my path and I've watched old movies and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing that so differently now. Like I had no idea what I was watching before. It was purely for entertainment purposes, but wow, there was a big message in that. It's really, really cool. I'm the same with my kids too. They've watched me shift a lot. And my kids are, my youngest is, he turns 12 next week. And my oldest is a sophomore in college. He's 20. And so they've watched me evolve and they've seen the changes that I've gone through. And like you too, they start to see how you respond to things. Even my husband, when I started to just, little things wouldn't light me up anymore. It was like, I know that doesn't help me anything. So I respond so much slower or more. It doesn't get me, like it doesn't get under my skin like it used to. I'm much slower to respond emotionally. And if I do respond emotionally, I immediately recognize, whoa, that is not how I really feel right now. And I take myself, either go have a moment to myself or maybe a day or however long it takes and have to really look at it and realize that is not who you are. You are not that person and you don't really feel that way and you know that about yourself. And it's gotten so much faster and it's evolved. So now in instant moments when something would normally trigger me, I don't feel that way. I mean, it's blown my mind how much it's changed. I mean, and people that know me have said the same thing. My kids, my husband, my siblings, they've all said, wow, like it's different. You just feel and respond differently.
I get that a lot from, my best friend, like the one that I've known since second grade. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh my God, you're like a totally different person. You're not the same person. In fact, I hated my name growing up. So everyone back home calls me Chris. I hated Christine. Okay. I mean, I'll go by both because they're used to calling me that. my grandma would call me Chrissy. God, I hate that. I'm like, all right, Grandma, you're the only one that's allowed to call me that.
Right.
But when I moved here, and I want to say, like, even before I went to SWIHA, I started going by Christine. I felt like I grew into my name. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, not like I have a different persona because I'm going by my full first name than Chris. But yeah, everybody here calls me Christine.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. Or at least sometimes I find it weird. It's like, if they don't know about like my life in Illinois, it's like they just picked up on my story when I started in Arizona.
Right.
And they just know like this version of me.
Sure. Of course.
And if they were to like see or look at or whatever, it's like, what?
Right. Well, that's the thing.
And I was like, well, it took a long time to get here. But
Right. It's funny that you say that about names. I have always felt that way about my name. I've never felt like a Tammy ever. My full name's Tamara. Mm-hmm. And I've never felt like a Tamara either, but Tamara resonated more than Tammy did. I mean, I literally would be like, I do not look or feel like a Tammy. Like, that just doesn't feel like me. And it's funny because now with my branding of Tammy Tuesday, which really was just a spin on a choice, really, is all Tammy Tuesday is all about.
Right.
But even when I hear it now, it still doesn't even feel like my name because I feel like it's something outside of me, which is interesting because I do feel our names. There's a woman I had on here. I don't know if you know her, Galiana.
No.
She does soul readings and charts on the vibration of the sounds from your name, your birth name.
Oh.
And it tells a lot about your story and what you came here with, the energy that you came with, that you were intending to do with your purpose and a lot of things. It's fascinating. And it's what birth name you were given on your birth certificate is what really was your kind of how you entered this place. It changes and evolves. Is that layer and energy on? Absolutely. But it's funny because names are really powerful.
Right.
And they really aren't you. It's kind of like the way I look at my body. These are just bodies. This is a body that I'm borrowing, and I'm grateful for it because it's letting me have this amazing experience. And I'm grateful for the body that I have. I love my body. I don't always love my body. There's times when I hate my body, but regardless, this is the one I've got right now. So I'm like, I have to just embrace it. Same thing with my name. It really does. There feels like almost a layer of removal when I really can look at it for what it is. And that makes me grateful because it's like, hey, this was just a signature that I came in with. This is how I'm experiencing all the cool things that I get to experience. And the pain, which are also beautiful, even though they suck sometimes, all the stuff.
But it's through the pain and those like dark emotions and everything. In fact, I did a reel on shadow work this morning. It was in black and white, and the light was like shining up on my face. And sometimes you got to dive deep into that darkness where you don't want to go.
Right.
All those like toxic or not so great, things that are part of your personality. It's like, but you got to sit in the darkness with the demon and find out what they're feeding off of.
Right. So you can alleviate
because
it.
you're feeding it.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so you got to change its diet or cut it off altogether.
Exactly. That's a great way to say it. It's you got to change their diet because you are feeding it.
Mm-hmm. Like what are you feeding it to make it still be there? What's giving you the guilt or the jealousy or, the repressed emotions or whatever it is? And, you have to work through it or figure out what it is to get back in the light.
So where you are today, you've taken some big steps to really step into this and what you feel you came here to be and to do. Talk about that a little bit, because how has that come to be?
So I've always felt that I've had this gift where people just want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Like ever since teenage years, like I could go to the doctor's office and you're sitting there in the waiting room waiting your turn, looking at a magazine, and all of a sudden the lady next to you will be like, oh, hi, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden she's like telling me like all this like, personal stuff. And I'm going, crap. I go, I just met you and you're telling me like this stuff. And I'll talk and like I'll give advice and all that. And even like this past school year, 2 days a week, there was a group of girls. I have this thing, okay? I have a tiara.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the school year, I put it on and I tell the kids that I am Queen Christine.
Love that.
I said, these 4 walls is my queendom.
Love that.
And of course, the boys are like, you mean kingdom? I go, am I a dude? I go, when there is no dude, I go, there is a girl and she becomes queen. I go, I am the queen within these four walls. I go, what I say goes. But I do put a lot of mindfulness and consciousness and all that into it. And when all else fails, like all the other things that I do to get them quiet, they're just, I don't know, full moon, God knows what.
Right.
All I got to do is put that crown on and stand there like this, probably within 3 seconds. Oh my God, she's pissed. Oh my God, shh. I just put the crown on and I stand there. So then,
oh my gosh, I love that.
It's so funny because it turned into this whole like
that's brilliant
monster. Okay, so the girls really got into it and was like, "Oh, hail the queen, Queen Christine! Oh, hail the queen!" And then so we started having this lunch bunch with the girls 2 days a week. FQC, Future Queen Club.
Wow.
Empowering the girls, just sitting there talking. Miss Iring, you give good advice.
You're like, so I've heard.
So it kind of started with that. I'm a teacher at heart. I'm a lifelong learner, whether it be academic or all this, spiritual things or anything that just piques my interest. Mm-hmm. So I just feel that it's a continuation of being a teacher. Mm-hmm. It's just instead of teaching children, I could do what I do for everybody, but right now I feel that I'm supposed to help women because of my journey, because of all the things that, I've dealt with, I've gone through, what I've accomplished. I'm older. I have been through a divorce. I had to start over. I had to reinvent myself.
Right.
I had to rediscover myself. God knows what else. So I feel that a lot of women can relate to all of that on one level or another. Mm-hmm. And through all the things that I've learned, through myself spiritually and all the different things that I do, I'm hoping that it can either support them, guide them, help them, work through, handle, shine their light a little better, understand themselves better, where they can be higher versions of themselves.
Talk about divine magic and what that means to you.
So divine magic to me, I told you this the other day, the way I came up with the name was we all are divine beings. So that's where the divine comes from. And we all come on this planet with our own unique spiritual, God-given, whatever word you want to use, gifts. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what they are. It's like some of them are like actual spiritual, where I'm clairsentient. I feel everything. It's like I can feel energy moving in my body. I can feel the thickness of the room. I can tell when someone's BSing. I just feel the energy. Mm-hmm. And there's 5 clairs, and a lot of people don't know even about those.
Right.
So it's like learning about those, but then also, maybe you're a good public speaker. Maybe you're good with children. Maybe you're good at being a doctor. I'm good at being a teacher. It's like, discovering and also totally rediscovering or finding out for the first time or finding new aspects of yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, would I have thought 10 years that I'd be sitting in this seat and I'd have like a holistic practice helping women? No. So you never know where your path is going to lead you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But the magic is like all the gifts that you have. It's like you could have the same gift as somebody else, but the way I see it or the way I present it is going to be different than somebody else that has the same gift. Look at teachers. Mm-hmm. And I've said this to my students too. You've got 3 5th grade teachers. We all teach different subjects. But the way I run my classroom or the way I teach or my method of teaching or how I go about doing things or my classroom management, is it the same as the other 2 teachers? And they're like, no. So we all have the same gift of teaching. It's just that, and all of us could have like the same thing, but it's how you present it to the world that makes it unique and different. And you're the only one that can do that. Nobody else. So that's where you're not in competition with anybody else except yourself. It's worthless to compare yourself to somebody else. You don't know their journey. You don't know where they're at. You know, you may not know what their true gifts and talents are. And here you are going, well, I'm not as good as them. It's like, well, you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be as good as yourself and better. And taking what you have, well, what are you going to do with it now?
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. Everybody has their own formula. And we all came here to deliver that special formula in our own way. And it looks different for everyone. Nobody's the same that way.
Yes.
Like you said, you can have some of the same gifts and talents, but the way it's felt inside of you and the way it's represented from you is totally unique from anybody else.
Absolutely. And I also feel that people can feel that. Just like with students, the kids know whether you care about them or not.
Yeah.
The kids know whether you're passionate or like your job or like what you're doing and teaching. If the kids don't like you, they're going to have a hard time in your class. They're not going to want to do whatever. So you have to have the compassion, the love, you know, and we're not just teachers.
No.
We're coaches, we're moms, we're
I know.
a whole bunch of stuff,
teachers
you
are
know?
amazing.
So, I think that shows too. So like even in having this practice, I'm not doing it just to do it. I feel that there's a purpose, you know, maybe I didn't have as many people there for me when I was going through this. So I want to feel like I'm there for somebody else that could be going through some of the same things I did or something similar.
It's huge. Yeah, that's the best thing about stepping into anything that we do in life is it a call? Is it calling to you? Or it's funny, Eric and I, my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday morning about masculine and feminine energy in the automatic way and the manual way, and how different that is. And when we really truly step into our divine feminine, and by the way, men and women all have both.
Right.
When you step into your divine feminine, it's more magnetic and it's automatic. You're not having to manually do everything. It just magnetizes. It's the right thing. You're pulled to it like a magnet. And the masculine energy is also very purposeful in every person as well, because it is the action, movements, steps that you take to do what you're there to accomplish in your purpose. They serve each other so beautifully together. But you need to recognize,
and it's knowing when to use each one.
You need to know
when
that
you're
they both,
too much into it.
Exactly. You need to recognize when either energy is necessary in whatever it is you're doing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I've even told people, you know what? I'm in my masculine all darn day at school. You're micromanaging all these little things and everything. And granted, there's a little bit of feminine there because you got the compassion and all that.
Yeah.
But it's like when I come home, I want to turn that off. I want to be like in my feelings and, you know.
Right. Well, but it's funny, even not as stereotypical as feminine sounds, it's actually quite powerful because it really, and it's funny, this triggered part of the conversation that we were having yesterday morning was you had mentioned about vibing at a certain, whether you're vibing high or you're vibing low, wherever your energy's flowing at the time. And you can still be vibing high, but if you're not working on what it is you're trying to attract, even if you're high up here, you're still going to attract. You're going to still attract things that you don't want. If when you're down low, you're
not
saying,
in alignment.
Exactly. If you're not speaking kindly to yourself, if you're in self-doubt, if you're in self-loathing or judgment or non-forgiveness, when you're up here, you're attracting that. It's happening, whether you're up here or not.
And when you're doing both, the universe is over here.
What do you want me to do?
Confused.
For sure.
Do you want it? Do you not want it? It's like,
exactly. Well, it's like, oh, okay.
I'm standing here like this,
totally
waiting for you to decide.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about manifestation. And the crazy thing about it is that you better know what it is that you want, because when you're vibing high, you're going to get whatever it is you're pulling in, even when you're low. Mm-hmm. So it's amazingly powerful. I mean, it's just amazingly powerful, and it's so, it's amazing.
I think part of it, and I have a problem with this sometimes, is, all right, you have the thought, whatever it is you want to manifest, okay, you have to believe it. You have to feel it. What is it going to feel like having that? And I believe it's the feeling more than
that pulls
the
it.
belief, because it's what you're feeling that's drawing it in, and then acting like you already have it. But
that's the only way you can get the feeling, is if you're acting like you have it.
So, but sometimes I also feel that you have to do all that, but then you kind of have to detach from it.
No attachment.
And, it's where you're not thinking about it all day, or it's in the back of your mind, and, you're just taking up all that energy doing that. And sometimes I have a hard time with that, where it's like, okay, you put it out there. All right, let's go on with our day,
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, stop it, detach.
I know. It's so true. Detachment is huge, because that is what keeps us stuck, is that we get so attached to things, and we think that the only thing that's going to make us happy is the thing that we're trying to attract in, and therefore we get stuck, and the universe gets confused. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't know. It's like, if this doesn't make any sense, that's not how this works. So it is very powerful, and it's a complicated thing to put into words. Speaking of words, it's like an energy flow. It's a flow.
So it's like the detach I'm working on right now. It's like, okay, come on, you got this. You can do it. It's a process. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's hard. Like I told you about the job thing the other day.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just something I said and out of my mind. And then there it is 2 days later.
Because you weren't attached to it. You put it out there.
Right.
And you were like,
I just have to learn how to do that every darn time.
That's what we're all trying to master. But the beauty of the fact that we haven't is if we all knew how to master everything, we wouldn't be having this amazing experience.
Absolutely.
If we ascend now, we miss it.
Absolutely.
We're here to live this and have the pain and have the growth and understand how it works. It's a beautiful formula.
Yes. And then I also want to put out there, trust me, none of us are like got it all together.
No.
It's like, I think I posted something, I don't know it word for word on Facebook the other day, but it was something like along the lines, here I am out there again, I post motivational shit. Do I have my act all together? No. Will I fuck up and fail sometimes? Yes, but you can bet that I'm going to be out there again tomorrow.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. Because you're right. That's the beauty of what this experience of life is that we get to fail, because our failures, our growth, that's where we're uncomfortable. That's when we grow the most.
And then one thing that they did tell us at SWIHA, regardless of what modality you're doing, it's like, I have tools, resources, modalities that can help and support you in whatever it is that you're looking for. But then we're also learning from you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're going to come in and it's an experience that I've never had to deal with, And like I told you the other day, when I'm talking to clients, I'm trying to get as specific as possible so we can figure out what exactly is it that you feel that you need, and then what is going to be the best route to try to get you on your healing journey to get through it, past it, and healed from it.
Right.
And you know what? I'm human just like you, and, trying to figure out what is the best thing for you.
Right. Well, that's what I always say too when I'm having a conversation, because like you, I have the same sort of energy that people will sit down and talk to me and tell me their whole life story. And I'm like, what is happening?
Right.
Like, that's my whole life. It's happened. And so but in that, I've also realized, because I'll give advice or and this is something I've done way before I had any idea about any of what I understand better now.
Right.
But it was happening regardless. And when I would say something or have, a word of advice or wisdom or knowledge that I had, whatever it looked like, whether I'd experienced it or I just understood what it is, I realized, look, I'm saying this out loud to you, but I'm really saying this to myself. And I say that a lot now, because everything I put out there, including this podcast, this is truly speaking to me.
Right.
And my soul and my growth. So as much as it may sound like I know what I'm talking about, I don't. I'm simply living through this. And these conversations, I am speaking directly to me. and with whoever I'm exchanging with at the time.
Absolutely.
What they're saying to me is for me, I'm absorbing every bit of it.
And they're bringing more new information in.
Right.
You know, and you're kind of taking it in and processing it. And, you know, you're even taking in energy. Like, wow, is this like a person that like I would like to have hanging around in my life? You know, are they giving out the right kind of energy? I'd like to know more about them and what they do, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, so tell me how people can engage with you, because you are really stepping into your power and you really want to help. It sounds like you're specifically targeted on or focused on women currently because you feel like that's where you relate best. How can people find you to engage with you?
So I do have a Facebook page, Divine Magic Healing. I also have an Instagram, same thing, Divine Magic Healing. I have email. All right, I don't have a website yet. In fact, I'm still looking for a space.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to get my Zoom upgraded so I can at least do like virtual. I'd say the only thing I wouldn't do like online virtual or virtually would be Reiki. I really feel, I mean, you can do distance Reiki, but I really like doing it and having people experience it better in person. I would say probably the same thing with like guided meditation. Once again, you can do it over Zoom or whatever. You can hear what I'm saying and all that. It works. Personally, I like to do it in person. But, you know, if the client feels differently, okay.
Right.
But my email is divinelymagic777@gmail.com.
Love those sevens.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, you know, you're trying to come up with your email, right? That one's taken. Okay, let's try this. Taken. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, let's try this. And you're like, finally. Now you're asking me for a password now too.
Exactly.
And I got to remember it, right?
Right.
Or they can also call me. My phone number is area code 847-809-5880.
Nice.
And then my name's Christine Iring.
Yes. Not to be confused with Chris or Chrissy.
Right. Oh, God, I hated that. Every time she called me Chrissy, it would remind me of Chrissy from Three's Company.
I was just thinking
which
that.
I am not, thank you.
She was a great character, though. She's hilarious.
Yes, very funny.
Well, I have to say, Christine, I'm grateful that you were able to come in and have this conversation and share your beauty and your journey with our listeners. And I know it will really inspire a lot of people. And I'm grateful that you were able to do that and be so candid and honest and open. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank all of you for listening in or watching. We are on YouTube as well. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. It makes it so we can help others find the messages that we have here on this platform. You can always find more information on my website at TammyTuesday.com, of course, as well as follow us on Facebook and Instagram at TammyTuesdayLife. Always sending you all with lots of love and light. And remember, life, love, and purpose, it all begins with you.